You ever get that feeling when you're scrolling through your playlist and everything just kinda sounds the same? Well, imagine that, but way back in the 1940s. A group of musicians got so fed up with it, they decided to break all the rules. Today, we're diving into the story of Bebop, a musical rebellion that literally changed everything.
Right? That feeling of, is this it? Is this all there is? That is exactly what a bunch of young, super talented musicians were thinking almost a century ago. But here's the thing. They didn't just complain about it on social media. They went out and created something totally, radically new. So at the time, swing music was king. You have to picture these huge bands playing these super catchy tunes. The whole point was just for dancing. But then, along comes bebop, and it was the complete opposite. Instead of these massive bands, you had these small, tight-knit groups. And the music? It wasn't for your feet. It was for your mind. It was complicated. It was artistic. And yeah, it was a full-on rebellion against what was popular.
So you might be asking, why? Why rebel? What's so wrong with fun, popular music that everyone can dance to?
Okay, imagine you're an expert-level gamer, but you're forced to play the tutorial level every single night. That's how these musicians felt. They were ridiculously talented, but they were stuck playing the same simple, predictable dance songs over and over. They were bored. They knew music could be so much more, and they were dying to create something that would actually challenge them, and challenge their listeners too.
And you know, every rebellion needs its leaders. And these guys weren't just musicians. They were like sonic architects building a whole new sound from the ground up. So, let's meet the crew.
First up, we've got Charlie Parker, also known as Bird. If bebop was a video game, he was the final boss. The guy was an absolute genius on the saxophone. His solos were so ridiculously fast, so complex. It was like he was playing on a difficulty setting no one else could even unlock. Truly next-level stuff.
And then you've got Dizzy Gillespie on the trumpet. He was famous for hitting these notes that were so high they were just like out of this world. And he had this signature look, a trumpet with the bell bent straight up in the air. He wasn't just an amazing player, he was a showman and one of the core creators of this whole new sound.
And holding it down on the piano was Thelonious Monk. I love calling him the harmony hacker because that's what he did. He played these chords that, at first, sounded kind of wrong to people, but it was pure genius. It was like he was finding glitches in the musical code and using them to build something nobody had ever heard before.
And this team was deep. You also had Bud Powell on piano, who was incredible, and Max Roach, a drummer who completely reinvented how people even played the drums in jazz. All these artists, and so many others, they all worked together in these clubs, constantly challenging each other and pushing each other to create this brand new musical language.
So, what did this new language even sound like? What made bebop so different and, well, so shocking to people at the time?
Well, the heart and soul of bebop is one word: improvisation. It's basically musical freestyling. You know how a rapper just comes up with incredible lyrics right there on the spot? That's what these musicians were doing with their instruments, creating these mind-blowing solos live on stage with zero sheet music.
And they did it at lightning speed. The tempos were insanely fast, like a musical speed run. The melodies were just packed with notes, and the harmonies had all these wild, unexpected chord changes you would never see coming. Even the drummer, guys like Max Roach, they weren't just tapping out a steady beat. They were having a full-on musical conversation with the soloists. It took an incredible amount of skill.
Now, it might just sound like pure chaos, but believe it or not, there was a system. They'd start out by playing the main melody, they called it the head, all together. Then, one by one, each musician would step into the spotlight and just go for it with a crazy solo, showing off their improv skills. After everyone had their moment to shine, they'd all come back together and play that head one last time to finish it off. Simple, right? But all the magic, all the excitement happened in those solos.
So this revolutionary new music needed a special kind of place to grow, and that place was the late-night underground jazz clubs of New York City.
New York in the 1940s was the perfect spot. The city itself was just buzzing with energy. It was fast, it was loud, it was full of new ideas. And that nonstop energy of the city flowed right into the music, making it just as intense and exciting. Places like Harlem became the creative headquarters for the whole movement.
Okay, so forget what you think about giant concert halls. Picture this, a small, super crowded basement club. It's dark, it's smoky, and the audience is completely silent, just hanging on every single note. This wasn't a party scene, this was for serious listening. And instead of loud clapping, people would snap their fingers to show they were impressed. The focus was 100% on the art being created right there on the stage.
And after the regular shows were over and the paying customers went home, that's when the real action started. It was all about the late-night jam sessions. You can think of it like an exclusive, invite-only server for the best gamers. Musicians would get together and basically battle, pushing each other to play faster, to be more creative. This is where the music really leveled up.
And the look. The look was a huge part of it. The berets, the dark sunglasses, the sharp suits, it was all a statement. It was their way of saying, we are not just here to entertain you and make you dance. We are serious artists, and this is serious art. Their fashion was just as rebellious as their music.
So bebop wasn't just some fad that came and went. It completely rewrote the rules of music, and you can still feel its impact today.
Here's the single most important thing bebop did. It took the jazz musician from being just an entertainer and turned them into a respected artist. All of a sudden, they weren't just there to provide background music for a party, they were there to be admired for their skill and for their creative genius.
And its influence just kept spreading. In the 1950s, new styles like cool jazz and hard bop were born directly from the ideas of bebop. And even now, the whole idea of a small, interactive jazz group and that focus on complex improvisation, that's still at the core of so much modern jazz.
So if you only remember one thing from all this, let it be this. Bebop proved that music from popular culture can also be serious, complex, high-level art. It doesn't have to be simple. It doesn't have to be predictable. It can be challenging, it can be brilliant, and it can be deeply artistic.
So, bebop was the sound of young artists pushing back against the mainstream in the 1940s. Which leaves us with a question for you. What's the sound of rebellion today? What music in your generation is breaking the rules and creating something completely new? Think about it.